Hello, so this is the second video for this Schiaparelli dress that we are making. And in this video we're gonna get the skirt to stand as it does here in the image, and we're going to create this skirt, the lower skirt panel. So let's get started. I'm gonna select my skirt pieces and strengthen them in 3D, simulate. Okay, so that's the starting point. And now we want it to stay really evenly as it does in the image. So let me find the image again. There we go. So you can see at the front it is down, on the side it is up, and at the center back it's also down. So kind of the mid back, the sides, and the mid fronts are up. Okay, so what does it mean for our pattern? So this is the center front, there's the side, and between the center front and the side we have one high area. So this center front is low, then we have high, then we have low, and then we have high again at the side. So we have to add 2 more points on here to define the areas where it will be. So if you go into add point, you can use quick step X, and you hold Control on your keyboard and then left click, you get this option. So we are used to typing in the measurement tiers and where it is located, but we also have this option. Uniform split, number of segments. So in how many segments do I want to divide this one segment? At the moment, so here my stand, it starts with 2, but I want to have 3 segments because I want to have 2 points. Yeah, so it will split into 3 even parts. Say okay. So this can be my lower point, my higher point, my lower point, my high point. And then it's going to be the same for the back. Same thing, also 3 segments, okay. And then we are also going to do the same for the waist. So again, Control, click, and 3 segments. Here obviously the numbers are a lot smaller because it's evenly spread. And also the same for the center back. Okay, so now we can draw some lines. So you can see here, if you see there's many points, you want to pick the black one. So that's where it needs to stay up, and this will drop down, and this will stay up again. And then the same at the back. So this is up, this is down, and this is up. If you wanted to, we could draw those lines for now as well, just to visually see if our line is relatively correct in the lower area, so we can get a visual. So at the moment obviously it's not happening like that. So what I want to do to get this to stand, I'm going to add some boning in here, which I'm actually not going to attach to the skirt, I don't think. Well, I will for a moment probably. Anyway, let me show you. So now if we simulate, this folds down, right? I want to bring this up and this up. So I start with the front, and I want to create a boning that will sit under here. So 26.02, so let's say 26. I'm going to create a rectangle. And if you just click on the background, you will get this box, and you can put in the width and the length. I'm going to do maybe 35.5, so slightly shorter. Okay, so where is it? It's on the ground. If you look, it's actually vertical right now, so I'm going to pivot it to become not horizontal, just a little bit. And then also, so use your numbers, then you can get a clear view. I'm going to use, oh, that turns too much for my liking. What we can also do is actually might be helpful is to hide the pattern. So now from up here it's a lot easier. And way too low. And with a small pattern piece like this, it's a bit hard to select in 3D sometimes, so I like to select it in 2D and then move it here. Bring it a little bit closer to the body and maybe slightly different angle. Going back to the front to make sure it's actually where I want it to be. And then I will create a symmetric pattern sewing, so just in case I do some sewing, so now it's already in the correct position. That's why I like to do it afterwards. Okay, so let me hide this pattern piece as well. Now I'm going to copy and paste. That's going to be for the side because that's the other place where it needs to stay up. So 5 brings you to the top view, so you can make sure it's correct here. Then going back to 2 to make sure you are as close to the body as you need to be. Looked like it disappeared. It's still there. Yeah. And now I will create a second piece, symmetric pattern. And then copy and paste. This will be for the back. So I will freeze all of these pieces. So this is basically how we can use boning. We create shapes and they could be following the curve of the body or they can be completely straight. And then we position them and freeze them. You could also create like a shoulder pad that you want to stay up there and then just bring up the height so we can freeze things that will remain in place. So now our skirt, we were hiding them, but it's not, if we were to simulate now, this will all obviously get tangled up in this boning pieces that are standing around, so this will be a bit tricky. So I'll probably start again with those pieces and go to reset the 2D arrangement. In this case, the 3D will be quite similar as well, so let's have a look. So for the skirt, if you look at it from the side view, it's always best to rotate when you look from the side rather than the front. Then you can bring it to the correct height. Check again from the side, maybe check from the top. Actually looking good. I want to make sure I'm above, sorry, I'm slightly above the bonings, rather higher than lower. And now the back pieces. So this will be a bit tricky as we made our piece a lot bigger before. So it will take a little moment for it to sit quite nice without without interfering with the boning pieces. So it's on the wrong side now. Let's see here. One more time. basically you want to work with your pattern pieces being on the either textured or monochrome surface, not the thick one, because when you have the thick you do not see the gray side of the fabric underneath. So this piece needs to come, oh, not the rotation. Just to get this piece to get closer. Check I've got the correct pieces. Let's bring it a lot closer. Actually, okay, and before simulating I could also strengthen my top just because this might pull a little bit more onto the garment, and I wanted to get to kind of pull down from the top. So let's have a look. This is obviously what I was talking about with the fullness, and voila, it's not perfect yet, but it's not bad. You see that's our side seam, and then that's the low part, and these are the mid-back upper parts, and then here we have side seam. Yeah, so you need to click on the piece to actually see the seam and then have a look, but I think it sits pretty good actually. So then the question is, how are we going with fullness? Do we need to add more fullness into our pattern piece for it to look a little bit more like the original as we really want it to look? So that is basically what you need to evaluate, and you can adjust yourself. I leave that up to you to play with it further, and later we will adjust the fabric. That's one thing I have to say. So we will try to achieve this look without the strengthening and by adjusting the fabric, but we will do that a little bit later. Nothing wrong with using a strengthening though, we can definitely do that, but if you have a look, this area is a lot more similar to the lower part, and for right now we have a lot bigger here and smaller on top. That is mostly, actually here I need to pull it further because it's not on the correct line. But besides the point, because here it is smaller here, and it's because the fabric itself obviously applies to gravity. Put a piece of fabric onto a stick, it will of course fall down quite in 90 degree angles from here. So we need to adjust the fabric to get a more even kind of curve around here. So we'll do that a little bit later. And for now, what's the next step I want to do? I would like to, so we could start with the rectangle. Actually, we will start with the rectangle. What is also possible is sewing basically these lines onto these lines, but often enough then they become a bit trickier. It sits quite nice, so I would leave that for now. But feel free to do that if you're still not sitting well. So the rectangle, the last pattern piece. For now, we click on the background and we add the width of the pattern piece. So actually, let's just measure quickly how wide our pattern piece, how long it needs to be, basically, how long and how wide. So that's 82 on a quarter. Yeah, so from the center front to the side is 82 centimeters. So let's start with that. So 82 is like just the same, but I would go 160 because we need at least, we actually did more than double, depending on how the fabric looks. But let's start with double. And for height, start with 90. And let's say okay. So that's 1/2. And then if you ever think about it, this piece basically, so all the way from here to here, and it will need to be shaped to go up and down. Otherwise, like if you have a look, obviously the length from here to the ground is longer than here. Yeah, and so you need to work out roughly how long this distance is, and then we will add also 1, 2 extra points. So splitting this in 3 segments using the same tool we used before, holding Control, we're going to split 3 segments. Okay, so this is our center front, this is our high point, our low point, and our high point. Yeah, so now on the pattern, so center front is low. I will pull this down, holding Shift, pressing Control, and I'm gonna try 24 centimeters. And then this is our high point, and this is the low point. So again, holding Shift, Control, and pulling this down as well. And now I don't like the sharp points, right? Because there's nothing sharp about it. The dress is all nicely curved. So here we have our smooth curve tool. So from here, if I drag, it will just smoothen those. And that's what I want, really. For here, it will not work because it will curve this direction, and that's not what we want. So I'll leave that for now. And for the center front, I can actually unfold symmetric edging to sewing. So we have one big piece, and now I can also adjust the smooth curve at the center front. Okay, so at the center front I will add myself another point because I want to know where my center front is. I don't want to lose that point. And for everything else, I think it's fine because it will not be as specifically needed. And for the last one here, so a couple of options how you can do that, but I think I will just draw the line, holding Command to get the smooth curve, and then blend it in. And then use this just to cut it off and delete that piece. The low point, the high point, and the center front here. And then the whole piece double, obviously. So for the next step is what we just sew all of this on and create the same for the back. Let's get the front right first. One thing I want to do is I want to freeze the pattern piece of the front and also the back, so the skirt parts. Because the moment you stitch to it, it will move a lot, right? So you could have a look at if this has the correct proportions. So starting from the center front, I'm going to sew to the side seam, and then to the other side as well. Okay, so that's the front only, and if we zoom up now to our 2D, can bring it closer. Yes, not to add full position. So I would definitely freeze it here. If we didn't, the whole garment would just pull and move around. So the next thing, actually, before I simulate, I will look at fabrics and have a look in the library to find under fabrics something like a twill or a net. Mesh. I think it's called mesh on Clo3D. Yeah. So I double click on it, it brings it over here. I select the pattern piece and apply, drag it, put it. So with this being mesh, it will not be as heavy as the normal standard fabric that we usually have. Saying that, this will also basically impact how it looks, because if it is too light, let's say, it will kind of bounce around more and will be a little bit harder to get into place. Okay, it's not too bad. However, it's way too short. So play with that. And also I wonder, I need to see it in the correct fabrics, I think. You can see this mesh, it looks very different than it just did before. And I feel like we could have still double the amount of fullness in there, but we could also play around with the fabric and just make it thicker, less see-through, and all the rest of that. So probably a combination of both. I mean, if you look at the original, then we definitely have a lot more fullness in here, right? Like I know there's with the twirl you will have so much, but at the same time, just to achieve a look on Clo3D, we don't always have to do exactly what we would be doing in real life, because we would have a massive pattern piece and we can maybe get the same look without that, because as you know, the bigger the pattern piece, the more it needs to gravitate to the piece and it makes it a bit harder. Anyway, so for now, let's go back here and lengthen our garment. Maybe a little bit too long, always holding shift. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. All right, so that's that pattern piece, and then we can copy and paste the piece over, and that will be the back piece. So the nice thing is when you do that, it's already in this kind of shape. I'm going to put on my monochrome fabric surface again, because it makes it a lot easier for me to place pattern and know which side is the right and the wrong. So now I bring this over. Sorry, wrong one. 4. Bring it to the back. Now, if I look from the back, I have the grey side, so the wrong side. So it's best from the top to rotate it. And then I can bring it over in here. Check it in from the back. Maybe lower it a little bit. And then, so which side is which now, right? I really don't know. But if you click on here, you can see, oh, so this is this side. And this is this side. So this piece will actually be stitched together like this. So now I can use my segment sewing tool and stitch these sides together. Now if we simulate, oh, I didn't stitch it on. Let me just undo the simulation. Okay, so now I just set this side here is this side here. So I want to start. It goes to, if you're unsure, you can click on it. Always click on it and see where the blue point is. It goes to this side. So you want to be stitching this piece here from the side seam all the way to the center back, which would be equivalent to this. And then always have a look on 3D as well, of course, to make sure it is correct. And then the other side, started now from the center back to the side seam, so from the center back to the side seam. And now I can simulate. I noticed a little mistake here. Before, I must have not clicked unfold with symmetry editing, because see, this is not happening on this side. The changes that I made here, so and therefore also not on this piece. So what I can do now to fix this is to cut it in half. I could also just recut, redraw and recut. Probably wouldn't even make a big difference in this piece if it isn't exactly the same because of the nature of this pattern piece. However, I prefer to make sure everything is perfectly the same. So now obviously I have the gravity thing, but given my fabric skirt piece here is frozen, I think that will be okay. And I will do the same to the back as well. So just in case you ever have this happening, this is a good way to fix the issues, because then your sewing is automatically applied as well, which I should have done to start with. Unfold, no, yeah, So if you have a look now, ooh, it looks pretty crazy, but let's have a look and see. I think it should work out okay. When you have fabric that's very light, you have a bigger risk, like when it folds, that it doesn't just fall, because it's actually, it can go, it can fly up as well. What's going on? Okay, so now I'm just gonna check. Yeah, the side seams are no longer sewn, so I will adjust that. So just double checking. These two sides go together, so you have this being stitched to here, and then now I have the symmetric editing, so it happens automatically. So there we go. That is fixed now, and I can continue with the pattern piece. Also, I'm going to change the pose of the avatar. For the eyelets at the back, that's, you want to always do that when the avatar is in the final pose. And also we will have to move our avatar, and therefore our frozen piece will have to move, so we have to unfreeze it. And also our bonings will probably have to move because they're also frozen. So for now I will deactivate these two pattern pieces. Right click and find deactivate pattern and sewing. Okay, I could also move them away and freeze them somewhere, but when they're deactivated, nothing will happen to them. Okay, so next, yes, I will have to unfreeze my skirt part, also at the back. Oh, wrong one. Okay, and now I want to change the pose. So the pose is going to be a little bit tricky for this garment. Let's have a look in the library from what we have available. Female pose. Okay, so here the arms are way too low. Maybe this one could work, or maybe this one could work. So this one obviously not very nice. This one could also work. Yeah, we just want to find something where her arms are not close to the body, but she doesn't look like she's in a fitting session. So I'm going to try this one. Feel free to find one that you like. Okay. So now simulation happens, and you can see her thumb is kind of stuck in the skirt. So, and pushed up the fabric a bit, so it's time to try to pull it into place. That's obviously the tricky part, including the bonings that we have here, so we need to play with those. So what you can also do, you can also play with the avatar joints. So when you click this box here, it will show avatar joints. You want to be super careful because you do not want to get her anything of her body into a non-natural position, because it will not be nice. So usually what I try to do is I try not to ever drag, because if I would drag her fingers, it will make it obviously completely unnatural. Okay, so what I will do instead is rotating the finger to, like, just moving it a little bit further away from the dress, and maybe also this finger here. And again, I will move her finger by this joint, not this joint. You could do this one as well, but I think it will look more unnatural for her pose, basically, that we have here. And the joints are on top of each other, so we need to be very careful when selecting. Just move it up a bit. Let's simulate again. And then you can hide them again when you're done. I think that's not bad. Let's have a look. Is the other arm in the way? Just here with the tool, so that's okay. It's deactivated, so it doesn't work, obviously. So, but this will be an easy fix. So yeah, you can choose the pose that you like. So now the next problem, or the next thing we need to fix, are the boning. So if you have a look, she has changed her position a bit, and you can see the boning is there and the seam is here. So what would I would probably try to fix that by hiding a few pattern pieces to see better to start with. Hide 3D pattern. This one I feel like I actually probably do need, because I want to refer to the line that we have drawn before, because the garment actually did move with her. So I will try to do it this way. So I selected it here, and now I'll try to position it. Here. And then rotating it a little bit. That was too much. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yep. And then for this one here, actually not too bad, but I'm going to bring it a little bit closer to her body. Let's have a look from the front. I think that's okay. Now how about the ones on the side? So let's have a look where the seam is. So the seam is slightly to the back, but it might also be because of the position. So I think in this case I will actually, for this one, I will pull the fabric rather than moving the boning. But here it is a little bit tricky. So to get it to sit on top somehow. Kind of need to navigate the fabric around to sit in between the hand and the boning. Actually, one thing we could do is probably moving the boning a little bit lower. And you can see it also sticks out, so the question is, do we shorten it or do we move it in more? I don't want to get too much into trouble in there. It looks good now, so I think I will instead shorten it. And if you don't know which side of it, always click on it in 3D, and then you will be able to adjust it here. Just hold shift and drag it a bit shorter. Maybe even shorter. Okay, now the next one. This one would have shortened automatically because they have linked editing. Let's make sure that looks still good on this side. So our side seam is slightly to the back. So the question is now, do we want to pull the fabric to the front or do we want to move the boning? I think I will move the boning. So this is my piece. To move this boning here. And then the last one. So this is looking pretty good for now, and in the next part we are going to play around with the fabric. Actually, let's bring our skirt part back. So you can go into garment display and click this and it will bring back your pattern pieces. We will not simulate for now because I want to adjust the fabric properties of the dress first before we stitch it again. So we leave it deactivated, but this is what we have so far.